What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Islam Makhachev's coach Javier Mendez spoke out on a recent interview and revealed that Islam will most likely retire by age 35, similar to Khabib. Javier says that Islam is financially set and he can see him hanging up the gloves for good within the next 2 years. Here's what Javier had to say.
It would be cool to keep both belts if the UFC allows you. That's what I would do.
It's interesting as well because I think in a few interviews, Islam has said he's probably got a few years left in the sport, right?
Yes. He's gonna probably do what Khabib did and retire at 35. Well, Khabib did a lot earlier, but I think 35 is the magic number for these guys. In their head, they have that already. That 35 is the cutoff point, and some will go over, but I think Islam is already set financially. He's done really smart with his money, so I think it'll probably be a lights out after 35.
Conor McGregor fires back at the MMA community for footage. Recently, Conor McGregor has been taking verbal fire from some folks in the MMA community over a video that recently made the rounds of him rolling. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Well, clearly, the criticisms caught the attention of the controversial star, as McGregor has released a lengthy statement detailing what he was doing while grappling and why. Further, the former UFC champion is reporting that the guy he was rolling with was a white belt. After the video surfaced, some observers questioned why McGregor wasn't able to secure a submission earlier, and others noted he appeared to be gassed. In addition, some questioned what his sparring partner was doing. Well, since then, the Irish fighter released the following statement. Partner went for X-guard, but without control of my back leg, I can, with good balance and composure, step up and over into reverse knee on belly. I then slot my lead knee in, blocking his hip fully while also securing control of both his wrists. I now have both my knees on my partner who bears full weight on top of him and no hands to fight. Very heavy. The position I'm in also here, not your typical knee on belly. In that, I am completely upright, allows me, if MMA, to have full torque for raining down proper finishing blows versus any style of rabbit punching. Yuck. Boring. Decision. Referee, please stop the fight. I'm hitting him. Can't you see? LOL. Partner then goes to reach around the back in a type of octopus guard that's gaining popularity lately, and for good reason. It's very effective to sweep, get up from, but I have position. I clamp down on the shoulder as he attempts it. Clamping on the shoulder is very effective and underutilized in my opinion. John has an extensive shoulder clamp system from bottom position and we use it with a lot of success at SBG. Almost everyone has cause to pause if their shoulder is clamped down on this manner. I step to the back then to avoid the legs and step over for the armbar, boom, finish. I had a tight clamp here. There may have been a moment to free the shoulder from the clamp at the last minute before I fully go for the armbar, but I would not have minded. I don't give a about the armbar or sport jiu-jitsu for that matter, because what is my position? I'm fully in position to end the fight here. Upright and on top with full torque downward striking available to me. Human instinct is always to connect the body in these instances. Essentially hold on or hug, but get rid of this instinct if you want KO wins. I'm looking to KO finish. I remain upright, not connected to the frame, but fully above and on top. I have 19 KOs in professional MMA. People often claim it to be my left hand standing as the shot that has awarded me my KO wins, but as usual, people don't know about fighting. It's the positioning, accuracy, and ferocity of my follow-up work that has racked up my KO wins for me. Take notes, please, because I'm bored watching now, and that's the truth, and I'm not alone in saying that. Lee Hammond is who I'm training with here. We're flowing just, and it's not that deep, playing. Lee is a black belt under Coach Kavanaugh at SBG and recently appeared in Tough, where he was fully dominant against the eventual winner of the entire show until a lapse in concentration in the final round led him into an unusual guillotine submission position. His opponent then went on to win the entire show convincingly after being down on the scorecards and on his way to defeat against Lee. Lee is the first fighter in MMA to hit a berimbolo in professional MMA and is an incredibly fast-paced attacking jiu-jitsu and striking fighter. I have been training with Lee since he was a young teen and I was in my early 20s. I used to open John's gym on a Sunday on my own, and word got around the gym that I would do this and Lee and his friend would be the only other two to show up. I would spar them back to back for hours. We still show up today. Training is going great out here, guys. Hoping for some good news to break, God willing. Thank you for the support. So what's your take on what McGregor's reporting here? And does it change your opinion of what was shown in the video? Or did you always feel there was likely more to the story than how the video was received? Okay, now let's take a look at Joaquin Buckley wants UFC title fight. Following Joaquin Buckley's win over Colby Covington at UFC Tampa, the surging fighter was in and out at his post-fight presser with a short and yet very, very clear message. He's coming for the welterweight crown. Buckley faced a former interim champion and longtime contender in the headliner of Saturday's card, and proceeded to score a TKO win due to doctor stoppage. Although some have argued if the fight had been going down in Vegas, the doctor would have let the bloodied Covington continue. It wasn't like Chaos was winning the fight. Buckley had squashed multiple takedown attempts from Covington and battered him with significant strikes by a 75-37 margin. So given that Buckley has now won 6 straight and has defeated notable welterweights like Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque, and now Colby Covington, he's closing in on title contention. So while speaking to the media afterward, the 30-year-old delivered this short and to-the-point message.
My first main event was a big success. I feel like the whole card, was very successful, getting a lot of knockouts. I feel like, my fight, shouldn't been stopped, but, it is what it is. You got to protect the fighters. But I feel like 2025, man, is definitely my year, and we definitely taking over, With this being said, this is on a 6-fight winning streak. I got 8 knockouts, within the UFC. I feel like I done enough to really kind of put myself in a position to kind of, yet again, fight for that title. And even though I know that Shavkat is next, blessed to that fight, but if anything happens where Shavkat or Bilal doesn't, step up into the octagon, I'm willing to, face them. So at the end of the day, man, we're going to keep this nice and short, bro. I'm definitely looking to take that throne, man, 2025, bro. So we out.
There's no denying that Buckley is going to be someone to watch closely next year. Heading into UFC Tampa, Covington was ranked number 6 and Buckley was number 9. So he's likely 1 or 2 key wins from landing a title shot. Could we see the UFC rebook Buckley to fight Ian Machado Gary, given that they were initially scheduled to fight at UFC Tampa? Who do you want to see New Mansa fight next? Jack Della Maddalena and Sean Brady, who sit in the number 4 and number 5 spots respectively, could also be options. Although there has been rumors lately that the UFC is targeting a showdown between JDM and Kamaru Usman. Up next, UFC Updates. The UFC's return to Australia continues to pick up fights, and not surprisingly, Aussie fighters are being added to the February 8th card. Recently, Marcel Dorff reported that Australia's Tom Nolan will battle Russia's Vyacheslav Borshev at the event. Nolan is coming off a unanimous decision win over Alex Reyes at the UFC's last card in Australia on August 17th. And the lightweight has won 2 in a row now. Borshev recorded a split decision win over James Yontup in August to return to the win column, following a submission loss to Chase Hooper in May. Given that Borshev has gone 3-3 with 1 draw to date in the UFC, the upcoming bout could be a pivotal one for him in terms of sticking with the promotion. And do you remember Dorobshak Namatov? If you need a refresher, he's the fighter who made headlines ahead of UFC 308 when he asked Dana White to sign him at a press conference. White didn't offer Namatov a contract, but he did book him to fight on the Korean Zombies promotion in South Korea. The event was going to be part of White's Looking for a Fight show. Well, Namatov fought fellow prospect Mateus Camilo at Z Fight Night 2 and lost via split decision. The defeat was the first of his career and left his record at 8-1. So while Namatov isn't getting a UFC deal yet, White did opt to sign Camilo to a deal. The UFC CEO announced the news after UFC Tampa. So it'll be interesting to see how Camilo looks in the UFC. The Extreme Couture fighter has gone 9-2 to date. MMA community reacts to Dana White's interview. Following UFC Tampa, Dana White reported that soon he's going to be announcing fights that are going to blow the minds of media and fans alike. But clearly, not everyone in the MMA world is buying what White is selling. The UFC's 2024 year certainly had some jaw-dropping moments and historic events. Just review what stars like Alex Pereira and Ilia Topuria did. UFC 306 at the Sphere also generated plenty of buzz, but the campaign also had some misses. The historic UFC 300 card didn't meet everyone's expectations. Conor McGregor's long-awaited UFC return never happened, and John Jones never ended up fighting Tom Aspinall. During the post-fight presser for UFC Tampa, however, White delivered this eyebrow-raising statement.
So I anticipate a lot of big fights. I got something in the works right now. I'll drive you crazy. All you guys will be running around. I got something in the works that you will never see coming for 2025 that literally started to come together last night.
As noted off the top, however, not everyone is convinced White's not over-promising. Here are some of the responses his comments received online. He said this about UFC 300 and gave us a Jamal Hill main event. Don't believe his lies. It's Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira again. Didn't he say the same on the Nelk Boys podcast early this year and nothing happened, LOL? Get ready, UFC fans. Slap fights will now be added to UFC cards. Some fans did weigh in on what massive bouts White could possibly be working on. The only fight that I can think off that would genuinely surprise me is if somehow pulled off Jones and Ngannou, so that's unlikely. So I'm guessing it's Max Holloway, Nate Diaz BMF title at 155. It's the only fight that would excite me since they never fought. Conor versus Dustin for his retirement fight. McGregor or Jones, couldn't be anything else. Do you agree with some of the blowback White's comments received? Or do you think the promoter could be poised to announce some massive bouts? And if so, what matchups could they be? Manel Kape sends a message to Dana White. Manel Kape is driving hard for a title shot following his impressive victory at UFC Tampa. So much so, the flyweight's reporting he'll head to Dana White's house to plead his case again. But as it turns out, Kape's comments aren't quite as alarming as some might have thought. Kape faced fellow contender Bruno Silva on Saturday and finished him with a brutal series of strikes in round 3. Even before round 3 began, Kape could be seen talking to White through the octagon, and it was reported that he was already calling for a title shot. White told him they would talk after the fight was done. So at the post-fight presser, the Angolan-born fighter had this to say about his title shot aspirations as well as talking to White.
I'm here a long time in UFC. I'm 31 years old. I'm not gonna be 31 forever, so it's my time to get the title shot. Me and Dana, we are neighbors. We live 10 minutes away with each other. You know, if he don't get the conversation, you know, I'm going to his home. I'm going to knock his door because we live in summer in Vegas, so it's easy. I'm catching him.
You certainly have to admire Kape for his ambitions here and calling his shot, but it doesn't sound like White's willing to give him what he wants yet. The UFC CEO bluntly told the media after UFC Tampa that Kape won't be getting a title shot next. White did not offer any specifics, but chances are Kape's decision loss to Manel Kape in July is a key reason why. Israel Adesanya also reacted to Manel Kape calling him out during his post-fight interview. Here's Izzy's reaction.
What you say fuck me for?
There are levels to do this.
Hey, I still keep it real, man. He shut out. It just shows I've been in his head this whole time. I didn't even think it was like that. Good job, little ass.
Jan Blachowicz disrespects Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev has repeatedly claimed that he's going to end the light heavyweight reign of Alex Pereira, but according to Jan Blachowicz, the Dagestani fighter has to make some serious changes to his game if he's going to beat Poatan. Ankalaev has been pushing ahead on a collision course with Pereira, thanks to a 13-fight undefeated streak, which includes a recent decision win over Alexander Rakic. As a result, Ankalaev has been campaigning hard for a title shot, and the consensus is he'll be next for Pereira. But while speaking to James Lynch, Blachowicz had this to say about Ankalaev and how he matches up against the feared champion. If Ankalaev fights like he did in his last fight with Rakic, he's gonna lose to Alex Pereira. He needs to do something more. He needs to be like, I don't know, he's a good fighter, but it's not enough for Pereira in this kind of style. He needs to change. He has to believe in what he's doing. I don't think he believes. He wants to win, but he doesn't want to take punches. He's very careful in what he's doing. This way won't work with Pereira. These are interesting comments from Blachowicz, especially when you consider he's fought both Pereira and Ankalaev. The Polish star battled Ankalaev to a draw and lost via split decision to Poatan. What's also worth noting is that following Ankalaev's win over Rakic, which was a fight the Dagestani didn't try to take down to the floor, he proclaimed he would beat Pereira standing. A lot of folks scoffed at that prediction, and it sounds like Blachowicz would likely agree with them. But what do you think? Do you see Ankalaev taking the belt from Pereira in 2025? It wasn't long ago that some were opining that the UFC was protecting Poatan from Ankalaev. Up next, Sean Strickland releases sparring POV footage. If you want to know what it's like to fight or spar Sean Strickland, well, a new video that's making the rounds gives you somewhat of an idea, albeit without you having to bleed or get concussed. Ahead of Strickland's February 8th rematch with middleweight king Dricus du Plessis, this POV footage of a sparring session has been shared out. Strickland isn't known for being a devastating puncher, but his defensive abilities and boxing have received widespread praise. Does this video help demonstrate why? All that aside, now it'll be interesting to see if Strickland can reclaim the middleweight crown. DDP ended Strickland's reign last January by recording a split decision victory over the outspoken fighter. Colby Covington breaks silence and reveals sad news on his recent stoppage loss this Saturday. He said that after the initial cut, which he thinks was caused by a headbutt, he could see out of his eye because of blurred vision. Here's what Colby had to say.
Yeah, so, we came in, in close contact, and I felt like there was a headbutt, and as soon as it cut in the first round, I couldn't see. I had blurred vision. I was seeing 3 different people. I was like, when do I punch? I didn't know what to do. I was kind of confused, but, I knew I had to keep fighting. I had to give the UFC and the fans a show, and that's what they pay their hard-earned money to come for. I'm a warrior. We're gladiators, so I'm not going to stop. I've had way worse in fights than a little cut over my eye, so it's unfortunate that the doctor stopped the fight like that, because if we're in Vegas, I know the fight gets to keep going, and I feel like I was really just starting to gain momentum. Like I was starting to wear it. I could see he was breathing out of his mouth. He wasn't as much volume at that point, so I feel like it was going to be my fight in the championship round. So it was an unfortunate stop, and I feel like the judges not the judges, but the doctor is the one that beat me tonight. I didn't feel like I lost to another opponent.